Overcomers unanimous. Powerline number 10. Small compromises lead to great temptations. There are consequences of falling back into the wrong habit. There are consequences of relapse. There are consequences of not staying on the course. There are consequences to compromise. Relatively small compromises affect us physically, emotionally, and spiritually. They affect us by opening the door to greater and more difficult temptations. A compromise is a concession or conceding. It is an allowance which, for a person trying to stop a habit, will lead to more and more issues. A temptation is an attraction, an enticement, a lure. It is a lure that will pull you where you don't need to go and don't want to go. Most people, when they start a program, will say, I don't want to be a drug addict or an alcoholic, but I don't mind drinking socially. Others say, I don't want to be a heavy drinker, but I don't see anything wrong with smoking. See, anytime you make a small compromise in your life, you can be sure it will open the door to problems, to disaster. Small sins lead to bigger sins. Small compromises lead to temptations, which are basically setting yourself up for larger problems, some of which can be extremely negative. You don't want to go back to your old habits, but you open the door through small compromises. Compromises such as old friends or old places or events or anniversaries can trigger certain feelings or certain fears. It is almost impossible to play with fire and not get burned, or at least smell like smoke. Matthew 6:24 says, no man can serve two masters, for either he will hate one and love the other, or else he will hold on to one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and mammon. You can't serve two masters. Two masters would be like bosses. Every time you compromise or make excuses to continue your habit, your addictive thinking, your addiction, you are saying that this substance or this activity is my boss, and I'm always going to listen to my boss. Mammon can mean money or property. It also happens to be the name of a satanic demon whose job it is, or one of his jobs, is to lead you to compromise. You must choose which master you want to hate and which one you want to love. But what do we say? Just one bite won't hurt. I can handle it this time. I'll just use this one more time and then it'll be better. I can control it. But ask yourself this one question. Is compromise what I really want? The fact is, you have gotten this far in recovery and you're here at Overcomers Unanimous. It shows that you are serious about beating this, getting into recovery, being successful, getting freedom. But sometimes you seem to hold on to that little rope, that security of drinking or drugging, just in case you need it. Then you can pull it back, but that is just compromise. Romans 6:16 says, know ye not that to whom ye yield yourself, servants to obey, his servants ye are to whom ye obey, whether of sin unto death or of obedience unto righteousness. Don't you know that in effect there is no middle ground between being a slave to sin, to the habit, and slave to the obedience to God? You can't hold on to the good part of the addiction, that is the euphoric recall, because that too is a compromise that comes in the form of a lie. The most important thing to you has to be staying sober and growing closer to the Lord. 1 Peter 5:8 says, be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about seeking whom he may devour. Be self-controlled and be alert. We should be constantly alert because the enemy, the adversary, the devil, the slanderer, he's always actively seeking an opportunity for an attack. The enemy, Satan, the adversary, will use any tool he can to get into your heart and into your thinking. Compromise comes from fear, fear of failure, fear of the unknown, fear of not being able to make it, or fear of just not being able to cope. Don't have a partnership with anyone or anything that won't help you get closer to the Lord. Illustration. One winter, a farmer found a snake stiff and frozen from the cold. He had compassion on it and taking it up, placed it near his bosom, and the snake quickly revived from the warmth and resumed his natural instincts and bit the benefactor, inflicting on him a mortal wound. "Oh," cried the farmer with his last breath, I am rightly served for pitying this scoundrel." See, if you give in any slight temptation or to an evil thought, it often comes back to bite you. You have to give sin less and less opportunity. There will be times when you doubt your addiction. There will be times when you feel you have no choice. The slip, the compromise is inevitable. It's going to happen. But it is that little voice inside of you, your addictive thinking, a tool that Satan, your adversary, knows how to use all too well. While you are working hard at staying clean, your addiction is working out at the gym, doing push-ups, getting ready, waiting for the slip, the compromise. You do not have to think about relapse. It is an ingrained reaction process. It's an automatic reactive process. Therefore, you need to be aware of the triggers that can cause that reactive process. Slips, relapses do not happen all at once. It's a process. No one falls into big sin all at once. It usually starts with very small steps of compromise. But remember this acrostic: face it. Face it is a helpful way to prevent relapse. You have to closely monitor face, fatigue, abandonment, cravings, emotions. Fatigue is being tired. Abandonment, being lonely. Cravings, the desire to use again. Emotions, the feelings that can get us off track. You will have to deal with it. Igniting temptations. Face it. Powerline number 10. Small compromises lead to great temptations.